For 7 decades, the bond between the United States and Canada functioned like gravity. It simply existed. It was unquestionable. It was enduring. America directed, Canada supported. America purchased, Canada supplied. But 3 hours ago, that gravity vanished. While Washington fixated on the newest social media post, while cable news commentators debated immigration language, Ottawa stayed silent. They issued no outcry. They staged no demonstration. They held no briefing to decry injustice. They simply acted decisively. Mark Carney just put his signature on an agreement that essentially dismantles America's dominant claim to North American resources. And the alarming aspect for the White House is that they remained unaware of the discussion until the signature was complete. This has moved beyond a mere trade disagreement. It exceeds a tariff exchange. This resembles a separation. Donald Trump devoted the previous 6 months to pressuring Canada, handling a G7 partner as if it were a subordinate territory, warning of 25% tariffs, then 50%, insisting on allegiance while withholding any regard. He believed he was applying force. He believed he was targeting a vulnerable spot. He misjudged entirely. He wasn't applying force. He was forcing them toward the exit. And now the repercussions are set to affect your finances, your retirement savings, and your supermarket expenses. Over the coming 40 minutes, I'll guide you precisely through the events that unfolded. We will examine the figures the White House seeks to conceal. We will reveal the confidential travel records to Brussels that Trump's intelligence personnel overlooked. And we will clarify why Mark Carney, the seasoned central banker and understated tactician, delivered Donald Trump the most significant setback of his term without ever raising his tone. You are witnessing history transform before your eyes. And if you reside in the United States, prepare yourself for the consequences. This marks the turning point. So let's slice past the distractions. What truly occurred today? At 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as Washington rested, the office of Prime Minister Mark Carney issued a shared declaration alongside the European Union and Japan. It's labeled the Critical Supply Security Pact. On the surface, it appears dull. It resembles routine administrative formality. That is precisely the impression Carney intends to create. Because when you examine the details, which we have, it represents a massive geopolitical shift. Here's the summary. For generations, the United States enjoyed what amounted to priority access to Canadian resources: petroleum, timber, aluminum, and above all, essential minerals. The materials essential for your smartphone, your electric vehicle, and the F-35 combat aircraft. It operated as an unspoken agreement. America received priority. This morning, that agreement vanished. The fresh accord legally commits Canada to allocate 40% of its critical mineral production to the European Union and Japan over the coming decade. In return, those countries are delivering substantial initial funding for infrastructure. And here's the crucial element: a fixed minimum price that stands apart from the U.S. currency. Do you grasp the implication? It signifies Canada has committed the minerals that American industries depended upon. Trump has been warning of duties on Canadian products to compel an unfavorable arrangement. He assumed he could leverage the U.S. consumer base as a bargaining chip. He declared, if you refuse to comply, you forfeit entry to American buyers. Carney confronted that warning and refused to flinch. He located alternative buyers instead. He secured advanced sales of the stockpile. It's comparable to a property owner threatening eviction, only to discover the renter has already purchased a grand home elsewhere and relocated belongings under cover of darkness. The advantage has evaporated. Trump rose this morning prepared to intimidate Canada into yielding at the bargaining session. But upon arrival, the seat stood vacant. Canada no longer bargains for entry to the U.S. marketplace because they have substituted it. This exemplifies masterful strategy and places the Trump team in a dire position. They require these substances. The U.S. military sector depends on Canadian cobalt and lithium. They lack alternatives. And now they must wait after Germany. They must wait after Japan. This marks the initial occasion in recent times that the United States has been positioned as a lesser associate in its own region, and the individual behind it avoids rally speeches. He avoids personal insults. He's positioned in Ottawa reviewing data, observing the figures fall precisely into place as intended. You may wonder, is this truly serious? Is it merely dramatic posturing? Let's review the evidence. Let's examine the concrete evidence demonstrating this is no exercise. Evidence 1. Market response. Check the display. These are the indicators for 3 leading U.S. electric vehicle battery producers as of 9:30 a.m. today. Declined 8%, declined 12%, declined 15%. Reason? Markets interpret signals accurately. Investors noted the Brussels agreement and understood the supply network these firms depend on has been reduced significantly. They recognize that sending lithium to Europe means it bypasses Michigan, it bypasses Texas. Now consider the Toronto Stock Exchange. The mining industry rose, the energy sector advanced, the market has spoken, and the market declares Canada prevailed. Evidence 2, border delays. Reports arrive from the Ambassador Bridge, North America's busiest crossing point. Normally, a delay there harms Canada, but today the congestion occurs on the U.S. side. American border officials appear overwhelmed. Whispers suggest fresh directives from Homeland Security to examine key commodities. Yet the key detail? The trucks are absent. Drone imagery reveals a 20% reduction in southbound commercial traffic today. That reflects no labor action, no obstruction. It indicates rerouting. Those shipments shift to rail lines. They head to ports in Montreal and Vancouver. They travel eastward and westward, not southward. Evidence 3, the disclosed document. An internal note from the U.S. Department of Commerce surfaced roughly an hour ago. We cannot display the full text, but one passage stands out. It reads, quote, current inventory levels of processed nickel allow for 45 days of production. Alternative sourcing from Indonesia will take 6 months to secure. Did that register? 45 days. Trump has behaved as though time favors him indefinitely. He has acted as though Canada faces desperation. Yet American plants face only 45 days before lacking essential raw inputs for vehicles and batteries. And Carney recognizes this fully. He scheduled it impeccably. He delayed until U.S. stockpiles grew scarce, then finalized the arrangement with Europe. He engineered an artificial shortage. This illustrates the mismatch when a television personality confronts a central banker. One prioritizes audience appeal. The other prioritizes advantage. Trump plays basic strategy. Carney engages in multidimensional tactics and has just captured the key piece. To comprehend the cause, examine Donald Trump's mindset. Trump relies on a straightforward approach, supremacy. He views every exchange as winner takes all. For him to succeed, others must fail. He assumes the larger U.S. economy grants him perpetual control over conditions. He regards intimidation as the sole valuable currency. Over the past year, he wielded intimidation toward Canada. He menaced the automotive agreement. He disparaged their officials. He suggested militarizing the frontier regarding migrants. He approached Canada not as an equal, but as an issue. He presumed Canada would yield. He presumed politeness equaled frailty. He presumed dependence meant enduring any mistreatment. But Trump committed a critical misstep. He overlooked Canada's alternatives. See, Trump remains anchored in 1985. He assumes global economies still center exclusively on American buyers. He assumes closing the U.S. market leaves others deprived. But this is 2026. The landscape has evolved. Europe craves energy and minerals to escape Russian dependence. Asia seeks food and nutrients. Carney perceived this. Carney grasps worldwide dynamics in ways Trump cannot. So while Trump issued loud warnings, Carney placed discreet calls. And now Trump loses grip because his preferred tool, duties, proves ineffective here. Consider it. If Trump applies duties on Canadian items now, what follows? Canada has already committed those items to Europe. They no longer aim to deliver here. You cannot impose charges on purchases you no longer pursue. Trump stands armed, issuing threats, yet Canada has departed. And the alarm is evident. Review his Truth Social activity this morning. It bursts with frantic uppercase shouts labeling Carney disloyal to the region, branding the EU deceptive. That reflects no victor. That reflects someone recognizing defeat. He attempts to energize supporters. He tries framing this as assault on America. But his team privately understands reality. They understand excessive pressure alienated Canada. And now Canada has responded firmly. And the harshest element for Trump, resolution eludes quick fixes. No single conversation suffices. No event rally corrects it. Agreements bind legally. Vessels schedule loading. The shift holds firm. Trump constructed his own confinement. He eroded confidence. And now he bears the cost. Now consider Mark Carney. If unfamiliar with his history, grasp his identity. He guided the Bank of Canada through the 2008 crisis and shielded Canada from severe damage. Later, he led the Bank of England. He operates methodically. He thinks structurally. He avoids instinct. He evaluates hazards. When Trump began warnings against Canada, Carney avoided rage. He skipped online clashes. He refrained from insults. He grew reserved. That quiet carried weight. Carney comprehends what Trump misses. True independence isn't loud patriotism. Independence means possessing choices. To decline the United States requires alternatives. What Carney achieved holds historic weight. He reshaped Canada's global role. For a century, Canada saw itself as America's counterpart. Carney recasts Canada as the planet's resource leader. He relies on a clear truth. The globe requires Canada's assets. The globe requires clean water. The globe requires uranium. The globe requires potash. The globe requires rare earth elements. Carney declares, "We welcome commerce, but reject coercion." This avoids hostility toward America. Carney values America. He resided there. He contributed there. Yet he remains pragmatic. He observes U.S. politics faltering. He sees Trump as unpredictable. He sees America withdrawing. And he safeguards his nation from fallout. He erects protection. This approach stays composed. It remains deliberate and ruthless. He avoids destroying ties with America. He constructs multiple alternatives so the American route ceases exclusivity, and that renders it powerful, difficult to vilify. He avoids challenging the U.S. framework. He merely executes agreements. He conducts commerce. How does Trump counter that? How challenge someone adhering to free market principles America champions? Carney has weaponized capitalism against its foremost advocate. So why does this concern you? If viewing from Wisconsin or Ohio or Florida, why notice a Canada-Europe arrangement? Because Canada influences every aspect of daily life. Appreciate reasonable power costs? Canada provides substantial U.S. grid electricity. Appreciate affordable homes? Canadian timber constructs U.S. residences. Drive an automobile? Canadian petroleum supplies U.S. facilities. Should this separation persist? Should the divide widen? Expenses arrive at your table. Consider outcomes. If Canada favors Asian oil sales through expanded pipelines, Midwest refinery inputs decline. Fuel costs rise, not modestly by $1 or $2. If Canada favors European aluminum, expenses for cans, vehicles, and building supplies climb in the U.S. Inflation, universally disliked, surges anew, not from central bank policy, from severed northern supply reliability, and impacts surpass finances. They involve security. We inhabit a perilous era. Russia, China, Middle East. Turmoil surrounds us. Generations of Americans rested securely, knowing the northern frontier remained secure, knowing their northern neighbor stayed friendly. Trump discards that. He converts an ally into a rival. Envision Canada neutral, not antagonistic, merely neutral. Envision Chinese firms constructing Alberta projects because U.S. firms were excluded. Envision European defense firms gaining priority Canadian technology. That world emerges today under Carney, not to damage America, but to shield Canada from Trump. You witness the collapse of the North American stronghold. Once breached, once confidence lost, restoration proves impossible. A widely shared image online demands attention. Captured this morning at Washington's Department of Commerce. A scheduled session on cross-border energy awaited. Notice the vacant seat. For 7 decades, Canada occupied that seat. Through conflicts, downturns, varied administrations, Canada consistently appeared. Today, they abstained. That vacancy delivers the clearest signal Donald Trump ever received. It declares no obligation to remain. It declares other destinations exist. Carney avoided volume. He withdrew participation. and the quiet in that space resonates powerfully. So, what follows? This enters risky ground. We face unknown paths. Scenario A, Trump intensifies. Most probable route. Trump senses embarrassment. He retaliates. He seals the frontier. He enacts 100% duties across categories. That destroys the U.S. auto sector swiftly. It triggers recession rapidly. Economic self-harm, yet ego may compel it. If pursued, a comprehensive trade conflict dwarfs prior ones. Scenario B, business pushback. Executives from Ford, GM, Boeing confront Trump directly. They warn he endangers them. They compel retreat. This aligns with Carney's calculation. He pressures firms, so they pressure Trump. Scenario C, lasting rupture, long-range outcome. Even if resolved shortly, harm persists. Canada absorbed the lesson. America lacks dependability. Diversification continues indefinitely. Ports to Asia expand. European agreements multiply. Exclusive U.S. priority ends permanently. We observe the conclusion of America's regional dominance. Trump vowed America first. Yet by treating nearest ally as foe, he isolated America. The coming days proved decisive. Expect volume. Expect Trump framing betrayal. Expect allies demanding penalties against Canada. But recall my point. This reflected no aggression. It answered prolonged intimidation. It answered unpredictability. Canada demonstrated sovereignty, not subordination. Mark Carney demonstrated standing against aggression requires intelligence, composure, and readiness. The issue shifts, not Canada's next step. They acted. The issue, can America acknowledge error? Can Donald Trump show humility? If no, brace yourselves. The frontier, once a mere boundary, now becomes a costly barrier. And we bear costs for decades. Developments move rapidly. We track ports, we track markets, we await White House reaction. Do you believe Carney overreached or represented the sole means to reach Trump? Does Canada rightly seek alternatives? Share your view in comments. This discussion matters. And for unfiltered economic reality, beyond mainstream caution, subscribe and enable notifications. We alone pursue this perspective. Thanks for joining. Remain alert.